Okay, we've got our press right where we want it with the minimum piston engagement, and we're just gonna, same as the rest, we're just gonna come down nice and easy here. And as I'm checking this, and we're still okay from a thread forking standpoint, and I'm coming right up. I think we're going to take a look there. And we need to go just a hair further. I'm meeting a lot of resistance, and so I'm going to back off and make sure that I'm not pressing on the crown. And I was. So I don't think I did any damage, but it's a real good point about not just guerrilla effing your parts into compliance, because that won't end well with AKs. So what I've added on here is another piece from Robert's kit. It's a little bushing here. I'm just going to stick it around, and that's going to give me the last little millimeter that I need. Want that centered. And I'm being super anal right now, but okay. Yep. I was starting to get a lot of resistance, which was bothering me, and then obviously that's why you stop. All right, we're gonna go just a hair. We are like less than a millimeter away from perfection. Okay. And this one clocked great too. We'll get a camera close up for you here what this looks like. So we've got all of our parts back on. We remember to get our retainer on. Hooray. If you forgot this, do not pass go, and you'll need to depopulate these in order to get this back on. If you're planning on adding something fancy like a Midwest rail, I think in some cases you need to remove this, maybe for the Magpul Zhukov as well. So it could be that you want to leave this thing off, and now you have the power to do that. You can, rather than cutting it off, you know how to get it off and on again. So in no particular order, we've got to get all these back together. I figure I'll show you the rear sight tower first, because it's the only thing that's different. What has changed is that we've added a different piece of metal here. So we've done our best to line up this hole. And in general, they just work. But what I would highly recommend doing is chasing it with the appropriate drill. And the barrel pin, or not the barrel pin, the rear sight tower pin on the Sentry guns is different from on normal comm block. So I think it's 3.5 on comm block, and this one's a 4.5, or it's 4 millimeters, I believe, on comm block, 4.5 on this guy, on the Sentry. So find the appropriate drill, and if you don't already have a screw machine drill bit index, I highly recommend it. The angle of the point is different, and the overall length of the drill is much shorter. For most gunsmithing stuff, screw machine bits are awesome. So, and Cobalt, if you're drilling into hard stuff, like Meridian Defense makes some great stuff, but it's very hard. You need Cobalt for those. So I've pre-checked one here. You want this to be, you want to err on the side of too small than too big. If your drill bit is a tight fit, you may want to pause and reflect. So I'm just going to kind of line this up. And I'm just chasing a little here. And I hit a little bit of schmutz in there. And so that's taken care of. So we should have a nice clean path. You want to check all of your pins to make sure that that one end didn't get swaged. This one did a little, and so I'm just going to take off that burr that's raised there. Doing this in a vise would be a better idea. And I'll probably put that end in last, but you're kind of doing it for you in the future who doesn't know which way to bang it out. And Robert also sells a very nice, it looks like a drill chuck that takes these pins, and so pressing them in on the press is a way more adult way to go than the way I've been showing you. So we're going to lube up this pin. And it is seating just a little, it's not seating the way I want it to though. I'm going to get that on there. Yep. Alright, so that's good and flush, and I very likely swaged it again, but it gets hidden by the guard, and so, as I say, best practice is probably to press it. We're doing it that way today. Alright, so that one's done. Let's work our way forward to the gas block now. And I'm going to use my handy dandy stock as a block again. And I don't see any swaging on these. I'm still going to lube them up a little bit. All right. As you get down, you want to use a smaller punch. My punches are a little, yeah, grinding down for about that height with this operation is doing it right. All right, that one's flush. And remember, these are the long pins in the group. The short pins we're going to go to the front sight base with. Yeah. All right, there's those two. Now we're going to do the rear. The front one, as you'll recall, is a special case. Give it a little lube. that one's done. Okay, so now we have to put the plunger back in. And it has a long end and a short end with kind of a canoe profile taken out of it. We're going to take the long end and put it canoe down. So we're going to orient it like that in the gun. We'll just do it this way. And spring should go in first. And I'm going to hold that in place with the muzzle protector. And I'm going to depress it. I don't think this will fit in. No. I'm going to do my best to orient that. I'm going to push it most of the way in and just try and feel that that whole path is free. All right. Last pin. Right now I'm going to check that it's still bouncing, and I am, so I'm in good shape. All right, and I'm just going to take, this is still, yeah, still working. So just double check that. If it stops working, no big deal. Just don't keep bashing away. Just bang it out the other way. Take another run at it, and it'll work out. Okay, so we're back at the press. I've jigged it up for this thing. You've got right here. I've got a block that I use for. It's one of the common ones that I made myself for pressing the barrel pin in and out. But we're going to use it right now just as a soft block to press this pin in. This isn't the best way to do it. I just did it this way. I drilled a hole down the middle of this thing to capture a 1/4 inch pin. There it is. So we're going to just come down. You want to be sure that your lever is hanging over when you make contact here so that you don't crunch a bunch of stuff. When everything looks, oops, let's do that again. Like I said, not the best. Robert makes a tool that's pretty great for this that I think is not much money. Okay, so we're just going to press down, and a lot of my anti-seize is wiped away. So just going to come in and that's way too much, but as Bill O'Reilly says, F it, we'll do it live. There we go. So you want to be paying attention with this stuff. Again, if something sounds horrible, it probably is. Got nice medium pressure though. Feeling pretty good about it. So as I come down here, just when I get flush, I'm going to stop. And I can't quite see what's going on, so I'm going to back off. Okay. In the end, I might use the air hammer to just seat it flush because the pin is wider than the... Still a tad proud and a tad shy on that side. So we'll just come back over here. And you can do this with a hammer and a regular punch. All right, that's seated about where I want it. And now it's on to the big gotcha, right? Get this thing on now and lock it in so you don't forget it. All right, there's that. Now we're going to chuck this in the... we could do it either way. We could do it in the press, or we could do it with the air hammer. This was the one that was super tight. I'm going to sand this down just a little bit so that we're not doing crazy force to get it back on. All right, congrats. We are ready to put this thing back together again. So I'm going to start with the fire control group. This is an aftermarket trigger group that doesn't have the barrel that holds everything together. So this is the disconnector spring here. This is what gives you trigger reset. Going to put those together, and we're going to drop them down into the trigger pocket and throw an access pin in. Get those all aligned. Okay, and that's moving back and forth, and we can check that the disconnector still has spring tension on it. Now we're going to take our mean, nasty, horrible little Cobra here, slide him in there and rotate him, and stick the access pin in for that. And I think we can go ahead and put the Krebs plate in right now. So we're just going to slide that into the groove in the access pin, and then drop it down onto the access pin for the trigger. All right, and that's found home. We're going to come down here. And now I'm going to take this out and let it fall, and it hasn't gone anywhere. So I'm going to bring these two legs down. And that first one didn't land quite right. The second one did. I'm just going to come back here with the needle nose and lift this up. So it should be on either leg of the trigger, like so. Okay, so now we're going to do a quick safety function check. This is really important. First thing, get a punch and press really hard without stabbing yourself in the hand on the two access pins and make sure they're actually captured. That can cause an ND in a really bad way. Heard about it happening multiple times. So we're good there. Now we're going to come up off safe, and we're going to pull the trigger, and we get a release. We're going to push it all the way down to see that the disconnector is engaging. Release, get trigger reset. We're going to come up and put the safety on. And we're going to reef on it and make sure that there's tons of overlap there so that this thing can't, so that it's drop safe, all those good things, so that it's a safe gun. Then we can come over here again. I don't know, I do it one last time. I'll do it a few times just to make sure I have what I think I do. All right, we're good to go. I'm going to put that back on safe so I don't whack myself. And now let's go up to the lower handguard. Slide it in. and the upper handguard. It is possible that this cam lock is tight because of the engagement on this. There's a flat spot right here. You can file this down. If it is loose, you can have that ever so slightly raised by a TIG welder and then file it to shape. I have not had to do that yet, just letting you know that that is what you do in that situation. So we're going to bring this down. Now we're going to put the bolt carrier back in. And the recoil spring. And the dust cover. We're going to take all that stuff out. And we're going to put the grip in. So on this Hogue grip, giant fan of Hogue. It's the 3/16 for that guy. One thing you can do to save yourself some drama is push the T-handle up to keep that screw engaged. This thing is going to go back in the way that you don't think it should. But, you know, there's only two ways, so. But it's going to tip back that way, towards the rear. Oh! And I've done the bad thing. All right, there we go. We may get away with this. This can be one of the most fiddly things I do on a gun. May have gotten away with that. I don't think I did. No, I did. This screw's threads are pretty well boogered up with Loctite, so I'm not going to re-Loctite it, but if yours are oily, I highly recommend it. The way the Soviets did it was they had a screw that went all the way through, and then they would stake it with a cold chisel at the top so that it couldn't move. All right, torqued nicely. We'll come back up. Throw a recoil spring in. Dust cover. Must be getting late in the day. I'm going to throw a rear stock on. And now we get to do the recoil spring. And the last thing is the muzzle device. This is a place where anti-seize is a really good idea. If you get extra on, it'll just shoot out, so it's not, I tend to go fairly liberal with it. That's maybe a little more anti-seize than one would like in one's life, but there we go. Just get rid of that with a towel. The stuff does tend to get everywhere, so you do want to de-goop it. And we'll take another towel. Get all the remaining grease off. So, while you can screw up the barrel doing this, the barrels I've done so far have stayed in really good shape unless I had a Krylon special on it, and that stuff chips off immediately, but other than that, things have been pretty good. We made it. To recap, we started out with the Century with an old style rear sight leaf with all kinds of imprecision in it. And we ended up with the Occam rear sight tower, which gives you a rear notch and also an optic mount that is as rugged and precise as it can be. As you saw, we pressed it directly to the barrel. So there's no tighter coupling than straight to the barrel, which is what we've done here. So if you want to see something neat, we actually think the rear notch on this is more accurate than on one of these. If you go and check out Larry Vickers on YouTube, his AKA Full Auto video that's in slow motion, you will see this thing bouncing up and down all over the place. And I gotta believe that that leads to this thing wobbling just a little bit when it comes back to rest. And so we don't even have that on this. So we think it's about as accurate as you can get. I think it's a great product. I hope that if this was a project that you wouldn't take on, that at least you understand what will be entailed when somebody installs one for you. And if it's a project that you would take on, I hope it's been empowering and helpful and has shown you some blind spots that you hadn't thought of before. So whichever viewer you are, thanks for watching. We had a lot of fun doing this, and hope you enjoy the product. Check us out online at occamdefense.us, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We got a bunch of stuff out there and more on the way. So, Brian Keeney for Occam Defense. Thanks for watching.